tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome, AfterBuzzers, to another edition of AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On, where we spotlight actors, personalities, and everyone in between that's on TV. Today, we're joined by Alison Skip from Spike's Catch a Contractor. You can watch it Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Welcome, Skip and Allison.
Well, thanks for having us, man.
Of course, this is great. When the show first, you guys are in your third season.
Yeah.
3 episodes in. I remember when the show first kind of came out, obviously through Maria Menounos, who's our network head, I'm kind of in the know of a lot of things, and so the idea of Catch a Contractor I heard about even before it aired, and they said it's like Catch a Predator, but for housing and things like that. I was like, this is genius.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept that they came up with, and the people at our production company have been working on developing this for a number of years, and it's proven to be probably the most difficult show that they've ever done, and they've filmed many reality shows, all of which that you well know. And it's been tough to develop, but now that we finally got it going, it's just such an awesome concept, that we're out there helping people with this whole thing. And the combination, of course, of doing it with Adam Carolla is just proven to be like, it's a great time. It's entertaining, and at the same time, it's really rewarding because we're really helping these people that are having such terrible problems with these contractors.
We're educating the public so that people can learn what they need to do and what they need to not do so they don't get the same problems, because it seems like everybody has a story about some kind of a problem that they had with a contractor or somebody that came into their house. Like Skip always says, if you live someplace, eventually you're going to have somebody in there fixing or building something.
Yeah, sooner or later you're going to, everybody needs someone to come in and do something at their house, unless you're just completely capable of doing it all yourself, which is pretty rare, So it's kind of like, when you take your car to the mechanic, it's like everybody kind of feels like, man, especially now with modern cars, everything is so computerized, like you can't really work on the car yourself anymore. So you wonder, like, am I getting screwed? Like they're telling me, I need this done. And it's just a problem that's running rampant in this industry. And it hits home for me because it's what I do when I'm not filming the show. Back in New York, I'm a home remodeling contractor, and I come from a family of that. My dad, my grandfather, all the way down the line, we're all builders. So, like, these are guys that took great pride in their work. So when they approached me to do this show, I'm like, I am all in for this, man, because, it's a problem in the industry, and it only takes a couple of guys to make everyone else in this industry look bad. You don't hear all the great stories out there. You just hear about the nightmare ones, So we're really excited to have the opportunity to be doing this. And now, coming into third season, the show is a huge success.
And we get to change the industry. It's like really, we can make a dent in the way that everybody looks at this whole industry, because with the information that we're giving everybody, it can really put a stop to all of these guys whose routine is just to be conning people and taking their money and not doing the job right or not having the right licenses, and it's just, we can really put a stop to it because people are going to know what's going on.
And for those of you, if you're watching and you're unfamiliar with the show, Allison, she's like the private eye for these things. She tracks that these guys. The contractors, they do the job, they walk away with a ton of money, leave it as
Houses
is.
in shambles.
Right.
Exactly, and then you hunt them down.
Yeah, because the problem is that they're not returning phone calls anymore. That they took money from somebody, they did something, they screwed something up, so they don't want to be found. Like these homeowners are calling and calling, they're not returning phone calls, and a lot of these guys who are routine cons, they're changing their company name, they're changing their address, they cannot be located. And then the second part of that is, we want to set them up to come to a sting house and give us an estimate. So we need a way to get them. It's not just always as simple as making a phone call, because usually when you call somebody, they say, oh, how'd you find out about me? You got to have
it's tricky.
legitimate reason. How did you come to see them? So that's where we come into play.
It's
to make
getting
the
harder and
appointment.
harder too all the
Yeah.
time, because in season 1 no one had ever heard of what we're doing, you know.
Yeah.
So now people have seen the show. So in season 1, when we busted these guys, you know, and they come through the door for the first time, and Adam and I come out with a picture of the people, and hey, you remember these people? And you've seen the show, you know how it goes, right? The first season it was like, well, who the hell are you guys, and what's going on, what's the cameras? Now season 2, we had a couple of times they're like, oh man. And in season 3, they're like, oh no, like they're like, oh, I know you guys, you know.
We get a whole lot of that. It's fun.
You know, the coolest thing about this show is that everything that you see on it, it's happening in real time. There's no take twos for us. There's no script. You know, we get one shot when the guy comes through the door to have that authentic reaction. And the reactions vary. From sometimes they're really crazy, and the guys, you know, are like, you know, running out the door, and it's big confrontations, and other times like, oh man, you know, you busted me, you know what. Rarely do they say, okay, yeah, I was hoping someone would come and get me so I could do the right thing. But ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to give them a shot to redeem themselves, because by the time we hear these stories, you know, these guys sometimes have been down the road for 6 months, a year, sometimes longer, you know. So they're not looking too good, you know. They're not the upstanding characters that they might like people to think that they are. So we do give them a chance to redeem themselves, and of course along the way we get that sense of justice for people, because they're really hurting. I mean, if you've seen the show, when we get to them, we're usually their last shot. They're out of money. They don't have money to proceed with legal action a lot of times. They're done. They have no kitchen or bathroom or their houses, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, the most recent one I was touched by. It was a woman. You know, her dad was suffering.
Yes.
Her mom passed away, if I remember fully correctly, and she was trying to build this house. And you know, initially the bid was around 30 grand. Then she's paying 70 grand for this entire thing, and she has nothing built.
That was a really sad story. I mean, they're all sad in the way, and that's another thing that's great about this show. It's the variety of situations, you know, and people can really relate to it. But that one in particular, this last Sunday's episode, she was a really sweet lady, and she had been through a hard time and recently lost her mom to cancer. So she had decided to dedicate her life. She's an educator, so I think she was a principal in a school, to dedicate the later years of her life now with some of the money and the home that her mom had. The money that she had got from her mom, she purchased this home, and she was going to host Cancer Foundation fundraiser dinners and things like that in this home. So she was doing it all for the right reasons, you know, and she had really good intentions, and it was to honor the memory of her mom, and at the same time a place to have her sick dad come and stay with her so she could take care of him. And like the whole plan just fell apart at the hands of this contractor.
One guy.
Yeah.
So, you know, you watch the episode, you know how it turned out, and they don't always turn out the way we want them to. Our goal, again, is to give them a chance to redeem themselves and to have them come back and participate in the process. Because if they come back, we have an opportunity to school them. Yeah, we beat them up a little bit along the way, but
Which
we have
they deserve.
Yeah, they
And
definitely.
it's funny.
They're well deserving of
When
it.
Adam's chiming in, it makes it both entertaining, and you also feel like that that sense of justice, because they do deserve to get a browbeating, you know. But and it's also funny because if they are humiliated as well, it's kind of satisfaction for the family and everybody watching it who's had that happen to them. Everybody wants to be able to get that feeling of satisfaction.
Yeah. What I you know, in hearing Adam talks about it a lot, obviously on Kroll, on his podcast, and we'll talk about your podcast a little bit down the line. Which, by the way, if they do have a podcast, so that is news.
Very exciting stuff going on.
You know, Adam says, like, you know, he equates it to, if you're going, you know, Alison, you've just called them, you've set them up for this thing. It's almost the equivalent of a first date. You know, show up on time, look good. Half these guys are showing up late.
Less than
late. We've had some like 2 or 3 hours late. They don't even call, you know, like, hey, I'm hitting traffic or something. And then when you're right, when they show up wearing like, you know, we've had guys show up in like t-shirts with holes in them and meatball stains. We're like, dude, really? Like, this is if this is your estimate, your first impression look, like, what do you look like on construction
no tape
day,
measure.
You know?
It's like they just come over like they're like, where's dinner? You know, it's like none of them are professional in their appearance or in their demeanor.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, in terms of the epidemic, I mean, how do these people get started? Like, what is the reason? Are they well-intended, not just in general with their careers? I mean, it just by default they fall into this as
I think
as builders?
It's a combination of things, and we've seen so many different scenarios. But I think if we were to try to put them into 2 or 3 different classes, what we're noticing is that most of them are guys that probably started out with the right intentions. They probably started out thinking they're going to go in and take on this job, most cases they're in a situation where they're in over their head. Everybody wants to take bigger jobs and make more money. That's just natural, right? But it doesn't mean they're qualified to do that. So as a contractor, some of the biggest costs that I have, the overhead that I have to work into a job, are some of the certified professional licensed trades like electricians and plumbers and HVAC guys and things like that. So those are the big costs that we factor into our price. And we're finding these guys are like basically handymen. They're a guy that you would hire, to come over, like a weekend warrior. He goes out on the weekends and he paints a room for people, or he hangs a closet rod or something like that. And all of a sudden they're trying to take on these full remodels that involve plans and permits and understanding, architectural design and engineering and how to open up walls and structural changes and things that are way outside of their education level, because they want to get the bigger jobs. And they take on the jobs of those other trades that they should be bringing in subs that are licensed themselves to do those other big jobs, and they don't. They try to do it all themselves, and they just don't know how to do it. So of course they don't get inspections to check up on any of that work. So by the time we get there, we peel off the drywall, and it's what you don't see. I mean, it's bad what you do see, but most of the cases,
they don't want to say no to the money. They just get in way over their head.
They get on over the head. So there's that guy, and then he just realized, you know what? I way underbid this job. I'm underwater on this job. If I come back and work another day, I'm going to have to take it out of my pocket. So they just stop coming. They stop answering the phone. Then there's the guy that sets out to screw people over from the start, and basically they're the con men. We think that they don't have any intention of ever doing the job. What they do is they come in, they do demo the first day, they ask for a big deposit up front saying that's for materials, and then they leave the house destroyed after they get that deposit check, and they never come back. So they don't even come back and do a day of work. They rip the house open and they ask for a big deposit, 50, 60% sometimes, and they never come back. So those people, to me, are just, that's pretty much just a fraudulent outright, that's, you might as well just be reaching in someone's pocket and stealing their money, So it's been a combination of things, but the end result is always the same. The people's lives, their families, their husband and wives are at each other because now, it's a stressful situation. Their houses are in shambles and they're out of money. So regardless of what it was that got them there, they're pretty much all the same end result. And when we find them, they're like in the worst time of their life, and we're really happy to be able to, you'd see that reveal day. That's the best day ever, because that's the day we kind of get their lives and their house back on track, and it's a really good feeling.
Yeah. And Alison, for you, for you, historically, who's been the hardest to kind of get? I mean, is it one particular person, or is it kind of a category of a builder?
Well, there's not the guys who are operating without a license are always the hardest to get to begin with, because they don't have established business location. The things that we look at that anybody could really try to find. We start with the most basic, business license that has an address on it and a phone number on it. When you are properly licensed, you have a history. That's where you would start. These guys who are just handymen who are out doing these kind of things and they're hiding from people, they're the most elusive because they don't want to be found. These are guys who have their address from 15, 20 years ago still on their driver's license, so it's really, it becomes a matter of using computers and paperwork and files, then instead going to people to find out where were they last, when did you last talk to somebody. There's different kinds of searches you would do for different types of people who are missing, because people who don't want to be found, they don't leave a trail. They don't have credit cards. They're using somebody else's car that's registered to somebody else, and somebody else is insuring it, and they're giving them the money.
Somebody else's license too. We've had a number of guys that actually are operating under someone else's license number, and they've gone as far as to go on the internet and see someone else's company name in their license, and they use that license number and just change up the logo a little bit, and they're actually operating sometimes for a year or a couple of years under someone else's name and license, from a different part of the state, and like we had
you go to check
just recently, right? So we would call that company, like, do you know this guy? No, well, we never heard of him before.
Yeah.
Well, he's using your name and your license number, and
so you would never know unless something like this happened. How would you ever possibly know? And there's a guy like up in Northern California with a valid license, and they're doing good business, and now that number is showing up on somebody else's paperwork in Southern California.
Yeah.
They would never know.
What is it? Do they ever question like how they got caught? Because I imagine when you eventually do find them, it's for the stupidest reason, and they must be kicking like. Over that?
You know, we haven't really had a lot of that.
I think they probably expect.
Yeah, they're like, it's a
they
matter
got to be
of
guys that
time.
are looking over their shoulder, because I'm sure that the person that they screwed over that we're trying to help with our show, they're not the only one that's looking for them. This guy, you know, it's not like this is the first time this guy has ever done this to somebody in most cases. So
oftentimes there's other
I would
families that
imagine
have been
these guys
victim.
they're looking over their
the
shoulder.
homeowner be like, and I know this other person that they did it to, but like, we can't. There's only so many minutes in the episode. We can't get into everything. But these guys are usually with a trail behind them.
That's
of people
the
that
worst.
they've messed
Sometimes, like when they'll start out a job on the people that we're going to help, and during the course of that, the first couple of weeks are going well, and they're referring the guy to their friends and family. We had one last season that by the time they cut the guy loose and he stopped coming back, he had done the same thing to 2 or 3 of their friends, and they all gave him money, and he split on all 4 of them.
Yeah.
So it's a problem that, you know, exists out there, and I'm really happy that we're making a difference, because we're helping the people, the homeowners, of course, as you see with the show, but we're also helping the guys in the industry that do what I do, that take this job seriously. They're professionals, and you know, they take great pride in their work, and those guys are hurting from this that's going on in this industry, because the type of guys that we're chasing, they're out there underbidding the job. They're undercutting the prices by like half. That's why they're getting the
Everybody
prices.
wants
you know?
the best price.
So
you know?
guys,
if you don't know,
guys like
who wants
me
to
and other
spend the money?
professionals, they're losing jobs to, you know, unlicensed guys that are coming in at half the price, and ultimately they never work out. So I'm trying to change that too, you know, for all the people that do what I do.
And for me, because I'm in law enforcement full time, for me, I love the sense of justice. I love finding the guy, having his face on TV, skipping at him right in his face, calling him a liar and calling him out on all the crap he says. And I just love watching him squirm. And then I love getting them beat up when they're back at the job site. I just love the justice. I feel so satisfied watching that.
That's the cool part about this show. And
That's not evil.
I got to tell
My
you,
evil
even
ones.
watching this show, like the episode you just mentioned from last Sunday, with the lady who had the house and the mom that passed away, I actually, I had a couple tears rolling at the end of that thing. I mean, we were there. I mean, I did it. I was at the whole process. And when I watched it, I'm like, that's, you know, many times with these episodes I watch them, and sometimes we don't get a chance to screen them before they air. And I hadn't seen this one. And that's how I really know what we're doing is good, and the show is really effective, because it definitely pulled on my emotions, and I was part of the process. So, you know, it hits home.
And he can't
you know?
cry when he's right there in front of all the guys, so at home he can. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anyone.
He's very sensitive.
Yeah, you can edit this part.
When we
anyway.
first did the pilot, even when we were filming the pilot, he was downstairs. The homeowner was yelling at the guy, and I was in another room where we're all watching the monitors, and the woman was screaming, and she was so mad at that contractor, and I was like starting to cry. And then later on, when we got home, we were talking to each other about the sting, and he was like, "Me too."
It's
and
really,
it was like you feel the thickness in the air. It's like real
'cause
emotion.
The emotion is so thick, so real. You know, it's so strong. These people are just like in devastation mode when we come up to them, and then to see them from that to the end when they're just having tears of joy. That's like, for me, it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my
like
life.
how cool we're helping people.
Yeah, it's really been a great experience for us.
And before we went on air, you talked about that this season is kind of a new format. It's exciting, and so
Yeah.
can you talk
So
about that a little bit more?
This season we're doing something different. We got a lot of feedback from viewers and fans over the last couple of seasons. They wanted to see a few things. They wanted to see more of the construction. They wanted to see more of the fix, because for season 1 was only a 30-minute show.
Yeah.
So when you take commercials and everything out of that, we're down to about 20 minutes of actual airtime. So it's very hard to tell this story, and the sheer construction, all that goes into the construction alone could be an hour-long show. So it's the hardest part that we had in the first season was trying to figure out what to edit out, because everything was so good, you know. So it was hard to, and the first season felt a little rushed. The episodes felt a little bit like they were very quick, choppy cuts, you know. So yeah, it went from like we're hammering a nail to like the people were pulling up and seeing their house, you know, like what happened in between. So season 2, we were really excited that Spike, you know, bumped us up to the hour, because the show just had phenomenal results with the ratings and everything, and it gave us a little more time to breathe. But this season now, what we're doing is we're showing more of the construction, but we're also showing a lot of the production, like what goes on behind the scenes. So when we're all kind of talking with the producers and we're trying to figure out our game plan of how we're going to get this guy, what we're going to do, I'm sure you watched it with the last couple of episodes. the idea with that was to have viewers kind of feel like they're more like they're there, like they're there with us.
It's not as simple as it seemed in season 2. It's like everything worked out. It went from this stage to this stage to this stage, but really there's problems, and sometimes the guy doesn't show up, and sometimes he doesn't return the phone call. Sometimes he doesn't come to the sting. There's always stuff that we don't anticipate. It's very unpredictable. The nature of the show, and again, why it's so hard to make this show is that the person who's the main character, I mean, yeah, we host the show with, the three of us, with Adam and whatnot, but the main character is a dude that, by nature, he's not reliable. He's unpredictable. We don't know he's going to do, and we hope that he even shows up. So here you got, a house full of 50 people with camera crews and, and everything that are trying to be hidden in a house, and we're like, oh man, we hope this guy comes today. It's like, so it's a very stressful environment, especially on TV production schedule. It's tough because, that can be very rigid, right? Yep. And we really never know what's going to happen. So most of the time, we're just crossing our fingers that things are going to work out. So this season, you get to see that. You get to feel that because, you see what we see behind the line of cameras, and we wanted to include people in those conversations. And to me, even watching it, it feels much more like I was part of it. And we've been getting great feedback from the viewers. Like, they feel like, wow, we can really see the gravity of what goes on. And like the enormity of the production. There's so many people that are involved with this. Like, many times you only see just us in front of the camera. But there's a massive crew there that makes all this happen that we could never do without them. So it's kind of cool that you see all of that.
I think it's really cool of Spike to even allow that. You know what I mean? To take that feedback, because that was our reaction here at AFTERBUZZ with the first season. Like, it's great, but it's too short. We want more, and so I'm glad that they're taking the because some people wouldn't.
Spike is awesome, man, and this was really like their thing. They wanted to give something more to the viewers this season, and when they that came down from the top, and we found out that we're doing this new format this season, we were all really excited because it's kind of like it's adding another layer to what goes on. So it just makes it all that much more real for people to watch, And I know a lot of people feel like some reality shows are maybe they're a little bit overproduced, or you don't know if it's really everything that you see, But our show is completely script free. We really don't know what's going to happen. So when the guy comes to the door, as I said to you, we get one shot at that, and as is with pretty much everything you see. So sometimes we got like 100 hours of footage in the can to get down to that one show that you see, and only because it's all very unpredictable. So now that Spike wanted to kind of share that with the viewers, I think it's just a really cool thing. It kind of gives everybody a little more insight into what it takes to make this show. It's very difficult to make this show.
It's the drama, like the highs and the lows of everything that you're feeling while you're watching it, because it's authentic.
Yeah, and if I can say that, just kind of give Spike some props. We're really grateful to be a part of this process, and they're giving us a platform to work on, to use our experience and our expertise in the other parts of our lives, and come together and work together. Like, normally, and we talk about this on our podcast a lot too, we have such different lives. She's in law enforcement, I'm in construction. We both get up early in the morning, we go our separate ways, and we do such different things that to be able to do this show and work together to get a good end result and help people, it's just been such a cool thing for us. We're really excited about it.
Speaking of the podcast, so it's Hammer and Nails.
Yes.
It's pretty much brand new.
It is.
Yeah.
We're one episode in, correct?
Yeah, we're
one
going to be
episode in.
Twice a week. We'll be airing, and we just premiered the first yesterday. Actually.
Yeah, and already we're #1 on New and Noteworthy on iTunes, and we've been climbing the ladder. We're up in the 20s as far as all of iTunes podcasts right now. So people are listening to it.
Yeah, just huge download response, and people are really we've been kind of pumping in a little bit, to let people know what we're going to be doing it.
Yeah.
And we've been recording it for a few months and kind of stocking up those episodes. So, and of course, we're really very, very fortunate to be on Adam Carolla's network, Carolla Digital. So that's really the reason why we're having that initial, huge surge of people, because he has such a massive following.
But people are
for
really
his podcast.
enjoying it. We're getting so much positive feedback. People are finding it because it's funny, because we're ourselves, and we're talking about anything and everything. Nothing's off limits.
Anything and everything, that's for sure.
Yeah, we do segments.
It's a little embarrassing sometimes, but yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah,
because
cool.
People don't know us really from watching the show. They don't know all of us. You know what I mean? Like what's behind us. And Skip's incredibly funny. I am just ridiculously funny, and the two of us.
So you think. So you think.
The two of us
Carolla's
combined.
like, you're not funny. I'm funny.
The two of us combined, though, we always, we can talk forever. So, people want to hear what it is that we're doing. We get all that stuff on social media. People are asking us questions. So we just figured, let's give everybody what they've been asking for. And people want to know stuff, so we're telling it.
Let me ask, how did you, in terms of, because, you're a contractor, you're in law enforcement, what was the transition like to, going on to a reality show and kind of now being personalities, and now, you got that, you got the podcast, so now, you're kind of becoming public figures, not just defined by, a contractor and law enforcer.
Yeah, in the years, our lives are very different. We were, much more private people, of course, and now it's exciting. It's exciting to be part of a process that of course, first and foremost, helping people, but to have that exposure to do other things, and the show has given us a platform to now do stuff like the podcast and other things that we're working on. I'm working on a book, hopefully to come out in the next year. We got a lot of other things in the work now, endorsement stuff and things that I'm trying to proceed with, with my career.
And I'm still dealing with bad guys on a full-time basis.
Yeah, and that's been the other side of this thing, that it's been great, and it's been fun and exciting and all of that, but at the same time it also is
real life.
It's tough and stressful in our real lives, because I'm out here for 3 or 4 months at a time, so I kind of go on hiatus, and I skeleton crew and scale down my work back at home to order to be able to come out here and do this. I'll pick back up again now when I go back, because we're done filming. But Alison, while I'm here the whole time, she's flying back and forth every week. She still has a full-time job in law enforcement. So there's some times that she's flying back and forth twice a week. So she spends a ton of time, red eyes, and she gets off the plane in a red eye after a 6-hour flight and goes right to the set, and it's just.
Or even in reverse, I go home after a 6-hour flight, and then I get in a car for an hour and a half to get home, change my clothes.
Goes right to work, and goes right to being a law enforcement officer with no sleep. So she's been a real trooper.
Crusty makeup and hair from the set from the day before. Oh my God, still looks good enough. I can pass with that today.
Yeah, just leave the makeup on from the day before.
Extra layer of deodorant. Nobody. So
she's been just a real trooper. And I'm really impressed with her ability to keep up with that, and for me, I did that. We both did it first season. We flew back and forth every week, sometimes twice a week, and it was just crazy. We'd fly in on Monday, film, and go back Tuesday morning, come back Thursday afternoon, go home Sunday. It was insane for 4 months. So I said, I can't do that again. And because I'm able to schedule my time how I want to with my business, I chose to be out here the whole time. So, we weren't sure how that was gonna work, just it's tough on a relationship as well, but we're really super solid like that. And if anything, it's just strengthened our relationship.
It really has. We've been super solid right from day one, but it's even more so, everybody was really sick. We go on Adam's show and people are like, you guys are disgusting, how in love you are, it's just because we're just so tight and compatible, and we're just disgustingly bushy.
We're lucky, we try to we function as a team, we help each other out, and I think that that's really part of the reason why we have a really good, solid relationship, is that we're on each other's side and in each other's corner all the time. So this show, if anything, we thought it was going to be man, how are we going to do this? What is this going to do with our marriage? And if anything, I think it's just brought us closer together, because we're doing something so cool, but at the same time, it kind of it tested the fiber of what we are, and it's just brought us closer together. So
until this show, we would never, ever did anything apart. From day one when we were together, we just did everything together.
No, until the show, I never spent one night away from home, and then I went from that to 3 months.
Yeah.
So, it's that would test any marriage, So it's been interesting to see how it played out, but like I said, it's been a great experience all around so far. So,
and if you had to, summarize it into the 3 best tips, for any homeowner that is getting a renovation, what would you give them? Then Alison, while he's giving his answer, if someone is screwed, by a contractor, what legal ramifications can they take if they go through that, without the show?
Right. Well, in the show, we try to give as many takeaways as possible to try to help viewers, so they don't get into the situation to begin with. So with that being said, definitely if you're going to look into having any home remodel, any work done by any type of person in your home, always make sure first that they're licensed. You can go right onto your state's contractor state licensing board website and just look at their business name or their own name and make sure they have a license. Make sure they have, a long, good standing history, and they don't have a list of violations and complaints or revocations or suspensions or what it might,
And if you can't find it, ask them. I can't on the computer.
Right.
What is your license number? What's it listed under? Is it under your name or do you have a business name?
Most of the people that we deal with on this show, they never did that. They never had that diligence to look at that. They just, took the guy at face value, or he was referred from someone else, and it just didn't work out. So always make sure they're licensed.
And when you get it, check it.
Yeah, definitely check it and make sure that they have a list of referrals. Referrals are huge because even if they have a license, it doesn't mean that they're good at what they do. When you take the exam to become a contractor, and many, especially the GC, like as an electrician, a plumber, and some of the other certified trades, there are practical portions of the exam, and you have to have years of time and apprenticeship and have that documented that before you can even take the exam. As a GC, it's mostly about being able to write contracts properly in the legal side of the business and how you work with subcontractors and homeowners and the legal arrangements of the business. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a tremendous experience in building or any one trade.
People get confused between carpenter and contractor. They think it's the same thing.
Yeah, contractor is a very widely used term, and I think not in a good way, because like guys say, well, yeah, I'm a contractor because like on the weekends they, him and his friend, they go out and they build decks or whatever. But that's a big difference from being a contractor. There's a whole different world that comes with taking on the responsibility of acting in the capacity of a contractor. So to get back to what I was saying, the referrals are huge because if you get a list of referrals, you're going to be able to see a list of names and numbers of people they've done business with. And if you're, for instance, wanting to have, let's say, a kitchen done in your house, ask for a list of referrals of all your kitchen jobs. Don't ask, if the guy's a roofer, that's not who you want doing your kitchen. He could be the best roofer in the world, but you don't want him doing your kitchen, right? So get that list of kitchens, get a half a dozen names, and call those people. Because just if you get the referrals doesn't mean that you actually checked up on them. Call them and ask them, were they happy? Were there any problems? Was the guy on time? Did he stay on budget? And if you do that, you'd be surprised. You can really weed out, very quickly the people that you want to be talking to and who you don't. And if they don't have the license and they don't have referrals, they're off the list. They're not, you should always get multiple estimates, but they're not even part of the equation anymore. Mm-hmm. That would be the most valuable information I could give people.
And good guys want to give you those referrals. They're happy to give it to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they're proud of it.
Yeah, it's bragging rights.
They've built that up.
Right.
Is there a certain threshold, like, let's say a quick job, what's like the threshold of like, okay, you want someone, you want someone like that, you want to do your due diligence versus like, I need, I don't know, there's a wood's falling off the gate. I don't know. Right? Like, where's the threshold of to make sure that you have really good quality versus just like, I just want this done?
Right. Well,
if there is one,
it really depends on the size of what you're looking to have done. So if you're going to do anything that involves multiple trades, such as like a bathroom or a kitchen, where you're having multiple licensed trades in there, plumbers, electricians, framers, painters, tile guys, all those people have to work together. That's definitely the job for a GC that has experience at doing those large size remodels. If you want to have a slat replaced on your gate, that's a perfect job for a local handyman. And you can go online and find those guys too. And they're also required to have a license to do home improvements, even as a handyman. So as a handyman, I think it varies from state to state, but for the most part, their license is different than a GC's license, and they can only do work up to a certain limit in dollar amount. So I believe here in California, it's $500. So you can operate and call yourself a handyman up to $500. Beyond that, you have to have a contractor's license, a GC's license. So that's a perfect job. It's a one-day little quick fix. They're going to come and change a piece of fascia on your house or whatever it might be, hang a mailbox or do something, a closet pole or whatever. That's a handyman job. You don't necessarily have to come in and have a licensed GC there that's going to come and do that job. Yeah. So that, I would say that's definitely relative to the work that you're going to have done.
And what you were asking before about if you end up with a guy who doesn't have a license and what kind of recourse you have.
Yeah.
If he's licensed, your recourse is to go to the licensing agency and make a complaint. Right. You want to have them have an inspector come look at the work and validate your complaint to see, you know, are you in the wrong? Is he in the wrong? What needs to be done? And they'll deal with him accordingly because he can risk losing his license, bond, insurance, and all of that. But if he's not licensed, it's a civil matter, and you really
then you don't have any recourse.
You know, it's like you can sue whoever you want, and you can even win, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a penny back from them.
We don't get any assistance, so that's one of the big advantages of dealing with only licensed people, is that if you're having a problem with them, you can go to the licensing agency where they got their license from and have an inspector come out and look at the work to kind of mediate the situation and say, you know what, you're right, this guy is obligated to do this, and they can enforce it. They could say, well, if you don't come back and do this, they're gonna, you know, we're gonna put a complaint and a violation on your license, and in most cases, you know, guys don't want that. You know, as a licensed guy, you don't want that, because when people look on your site, you don't want to have that. So to have that as a homeowner, that's a huge help. When you don't have a licensed person, you're not getting that assistance. So then you're out of pocket to go and get a lawyer and proceed with legal action. And in some cases, the dollar amount just doesn't warrant it. So if it's like a couple of grand, you know, between the time and money you're going to put in to chase the guy for that money, a lot of people just say, oh, you know what, forget it.
Because there's also criminal charges, you know, because a lot of times these charges can be taken to court criminally because they're committing a felony by claiming that they have a license and it's somebody else's and they're putting it on paperwork. You know, those are all crimes. But then again, it's hard to really enforce these kind of things, again, because these guys are taking off or you can't prove anything. You know, you can make a complaint, but guys who are on the run, they don't care about getting caught anyway. Like, they don't care if they're going to get charged because that's how they do their business. You know, that's how they put food on their table. They're just going to keep doing it anyway.
Yeah, there's no I get it. There's no paper trail. Like, you know, it's been, you know, half these guys don't use email. It's all just phone by meeting.
And that's, again, you only want to deal with those guys that are documented people, and they they run a professional operation, because it helps you should anything go wrong.
And it costs more, but then think about what it costs to go back and fix the whole thing once he screws it up.
That's what you pay for. You know, especially in this business, I tell people you definitely get what you pay for in this business, and you should not ever take the lowest bid, because there's a reason why it's the lowest bid. If you're getting a couple different estimates and someone's coming in 50% less than everybody else, bottom line is that it's going to take X amount of materials to get that job done. Each one of those guys are pretty much going to have to use the same materials to get the job done. But where they're going to cut the corners is in the labor. You know, so they're using day laborers or unskilled labor. So one day, the guy that's working with the contractor, day before he was mowing someone's lawn. Now, you know, a contractor picked him up on the corner and he's got him, you know, doing plumbing in someone's house. That's not the person you want there. You know, so you definitely pay more, but you're paying for getting the right quality people there. So, makes sense.
I agree. I agree. I mean, it's on all facets of, you know, the various, but you know, I've seen it with website design. I've seen it with, it's just so on and so forth.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You really do. When it comes to your home and your family, it's worth making the investment to do it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, especially somebody, you know, they're sitting at a kitchen, a small little table with barely a roof over it.
You've
for
seen
months
show,
on
man.
end.
It's horrible.
You know, sleeping in sleeping bags.
Some of these stories are just heartbreaking, man. They really are. Yeah. So, don't have it happen to you.
Please don't.
No,
please don't. So the podcast, Hammer and Nails. The Twitter for that is Hammer Nails Pod, P-O-D.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you guys want to share with our viewers while you have the opportunity?
Well, you know, again, with the podcast, we're really excited to be doing that. It's going to give us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about all the things that, you know, would happen with us outside of the show.
We've had a lot of crazy things happen to us since we've started working on the show.
I bet.
Because we're like the average Joe, you know, like we're just next door neighbor homeowner, you know, and then all of a sudden we get put into this show with somebody who's already a huge celebrity, and he's like we are now 1 degree of separation from every celebrity on the planet practically, right? Because he's interviewed everybody, he's best friends with Jimmy Kimmel, you know, it's like, and then now we're meeting people, and we've been invited to things, so it's like we've had just some crazy experiences. Like we look at each other like, look where we
talk about all that stuff, you know, in the podcast. So like, you know, people that listen to it and they're like, you know, they can, and especially people that know us, you know, they know what kind of folks that we are, and it's just to be able to have an opportunity to do all these great things. It's just been very exciting. So we're happy to be able to kind of air all that, and also take questions from people. So this is an exciting other layer of stuff that we're doing.
Speaking, if you guys have questions for these guys, they of course have their personal Twitters, but go to Hammer Nails POD Pod, and subscribe there and ask your questions and look out for you because they may just answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. we will, because we try to answer like everybody,
and you may be surprised at the answers that you get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what types of questions have you guys been asked thus far?
A lot of show-related stuff. Things that we like to do when we're not filming the show. Some personal things. That
yeah, we get into a lot of funny personal things. We have a segment on our show that we like. It's what the fuck. I don't know if you're gonna bleep that, but but it's like something.
It's funny.
In our life, we just have so many stories. Like when you have a story that something happened to you, like back in college or something that happened to you today. Like while you're out in the car.
Well, how many times do you go through the course of the day and you're like, what? Like, what just happened? Like, what is that? So it's like, it's funny stuff that we talk about.
They're all just so ridiculously funny.
Yeah, and we're doing the show with Joseph Cumia, who is Anthony Cumia's brother from the Opening Anthony show. He's our engineer, but he's also the third part of our show, which is kind of cool because he kind of interjects, and gets involved with the conversation. We bounce off each other, and we kind of just share some experiences, and we have a lot of laughs. We're having a good time doing it. And it's just been cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really only takes listening to the first one because the positive feedback we've been getting has just been overwhelming. So it just seems like everybody's really digging it, and the rest of our podcasts are just more of the same. So
yeah,
we're
and we do
that.
the thing where we answer the questions, but we try to talk about some different segments, like what's going on, news and trend and newsworthy things, and there's a bunch of different segments.
Yeah, he's got
his
his tips, like his
Skip's tips, which is cool. So like home remodeling stuff or DIY questions, I'll answer or just offer up some information about tools or stuff that you can do at home. So you don't have to have a contractor come in and do work. Maybe some things you can do yourself.
People take questions on things like that. People have questions for him.
Yeah.
And I'm an obsessive researcher. Like, I'm one of those people that all my friends know that if you got a question about anything, whether it's like female problems or a product or how do you do something or something in the garden.
Female problems. Like, you want to know the answers to all those questions.
I know something about everything.
You're like, whoa.
And if I don't know it, I research the shit out of everything. Like, I want to know what the best of everything is or the right way to do something. So it's I like to share the results of what I have just found out about something, like I want to share the knowledge with everybody, so everybody's using the best stuff or doing things the best way. It's just
she's one of these people that if she's going to buy something, which by the way, she does everything like online, so like Amazon, and it's like the FedEx guy, UPS guy, we're all on a first name basis. I come home from work and like the front porch is pretty much loaded with boxes on a daily basis because everything we get from food to pretty much everything, a lot of it she gets online, and she researches the crap out of everything first. So she'll read every review. If there's 300 reviews, she'll read them all. And it's like most of the time I'm looking at, she's either on the computer or on her phone. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're constantly looking at things.
I want the best product and the best price.
Yeah, so it's cool that she offers some of that stuff up. So a lot of people ask her on questions on the podcast. What have you ever looked into doing this? And she will. Oh yeah. And then she'll just it's like Adam on one of his rants. Yeah. She'll like, well, how much time you got? Because I'm going to tell you all about that.
Oh God, I rant too. Woo! I complain. The F word is my favorite word, and I use it a lot. And
what's your number one thing to complain about?
People piss me the fuck off. Seriously, it's like I don't have patience for people who are just like not paying attention, who are inefficient or just stupidity. I don't have patience. He's a very patient person. He's such a good man, and he helps balance me out. But I don't have patience for stupidity.
Yeah. She goes off on a daily basis.
I go off on a tangent. Whether we're riding bikes, like down Venice Beach, the people walking in front of us on the bike path piss me off. It's like it's a bike path. Look both ways. There's bikes coming. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's perfectly fair that if somebody's crossing in front of me, if I hit them, they deserve it.
I agree with that. One of the things that I want to, who teaches these kids anything? Like, for example, right? I meet so many people that they don't know like handiwork, right? We going to the example of like fixing a fence. I feel like any normal human being, for the most part, should know how to fix like. And put in take a hammer and a nail and be able to fix it, and they don't. So who is teaching them anything?
Kids today have no clue, man. It is such a. I mean,
they know how to use their thumbs.
I feel so old because I remember like your parents, your grandparents. When I was a kid, and it's like I walked 20 miles to school in the snow. It's like. I feel like I try to even relate some stuff to my son. I have a 17-year-old son, Jesse, and he's a great kid. But, it's just, we're not that far apart in age if you look at, like, the difference in generations. But it's just enough to where these kids today, they have no clue how to do anything like that. They're going to be the generation that calls somebody for every single thing.
But who are you going to call if there's no one, then it's all these... shit contractors that don't know how to do anything.
That's the other thing, though, man. It's like that's the surprising part of it. There are so many more good guys out there. The numbers are overwhelming. It's like the in the 90 percentile compared to just a few, really, in the big picture. There's so many more good guys than bad guys. But like I said to you earlier, you don't hear about that. Yeah. So it's those couple of guys out there that are making everybody think like we're all criminals and we're all like that. And it's not the case. So that's one of the things that we're also trying to change with this. And again, as I said to you earlier, I want to try to help people to do what I do too, because it's a guy that's trying to out there do the right thing. And so there are people that do that work and do it right. But with the kids, man, it's scary. Like they really don't know. And even my son, he's like, I ask him, well, your school has shop class in it and all that stuff. He's like, no. Like when I was in school, we had a wood class. We had a full wood shop. I mean, you could build furniture in that place. Full wood shop.
He paid a nickel for pizza.
Not that. Full metal shop.
Maybe it wasn't good pizza.
Full auto repair shop, right? So now there's none of those classes anymore. That was like a whole other side of the building. It was like a massive industrial part in my high school. That was like all these things were available back then, and you're only talking about a short time ago. So a lot of schools now, because of budget cuts or whatever it might be, they don't offer a lot of that stuff. And I think it's also the lack of interest on kids' part. They're more interested in being, on PlayStation or Xbox or whatever than they are on,
But they can make apps. Like, got kids who are designing apps.
You couldn't get me in the house when I was a kid. You could not get me in the house. I just want to be outside doing stuff and fixing stuff and figuring out some way to, like, take the motor off the lawnmower and put it on my bicycle. It's like that was what we did when we were kids. And the kids today aren't wired like that. They're doing different stuff. With all the technology, there's a huge need for kids that are designing apps and website designs and all the things that we didn't have when we were growing up. So I get it. But like what you said, like what are they? You still got to live in a house. You still got to change a light bulb. Be like, who's going to do it? Yeah. Scary question.
The old guy.
It is a very scary.
The old guy's so cute.
And then what?
Yeah.
And we're gonna call the young ones to come and fix the cable on our.
Well, yeah, I call my son when I can't figure out how to do something on my iPhone. I'm like, here you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Well, at least there's that trade-off.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's a trade-off.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming by. Tell them where they can find you guys on Twitter. Obviously, the podcast is Hammer and Nails Pod.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm Skip_Bedell Bedell
on Twitter, and I'm Alison Bedell ALISON on Twitter. We're both on Instagram with our names.
And on Facebook.
We're both on Facebook, and Facebook also has a Hammer and Nails podcast page also, so if people want to type something a little bit more lengthy rather than however many characters it is on Twitter.
Go on there and give us your questions, man, or anything you want to know about. Put it on there, and we will promise to do our best to answer it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And of course, watch the show Catch Contractor Sundays on Spike at 10 p.m. following Bar Rescue, another great show that I love.
Great show.
Yeah, even you got to give that show a chance too. Our show, people, when they see it for the first time, they're hooked. Everybody says the same thing. Once they start watching it, they can't stop. And
what's good is that you don't, unlike other TV shows, you don't need to be caught up. You're caught up today.
Right.
Just start watching.
Yeah.
If you want to watch season 1 and 2, it's we're now on demand, which is great. For a longest time, it wasn't on demand. People were always trying to find where other places they can
Speaking of apps, the Spike app is great.
Yeah, the Spike TV app is free and it's awesome. So you can see all of the past episodes on demand. It's on Amazon. It's on iTunes. So if people want to get caught up and they haven't seen the show before. And again, the 3rd season is phenomenal. So check us out on Sunday nights at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us on another edition of AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On. We'll see you here next time.
Thanks, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.